Coach Devin here. Today we're going to get really, really real. Talk about the past drug use that I've had. I've never been a guy who was into drugs for recreational purposes, I guess I should say. For me, I always was interested in drugs on the performance side of things. So to give you an idea, I'm not a guy. I don't drink. Last time I got drunk probably was 17 years ago at least, maybe more. Marijuana, tried it twice, didn't like it either time. It made me hungry and sleepy, and I was like, I'm kind of hungry and sleepy anyway sometimes when I want to be, so that was okay. What I was interested in on drug use was steroids, performance enhancers in general, and steroids. Now, I'll be honest, I don't take steroids now, but I have a bit, or more than a bit, I guess, of experience of taking steroids in my early 20s and mid 20s. I guess, and even when I was 19. To give you some background on it, as a kid, when you hit 13, 14 years old, you start to, notice girls. I think I noticed girls earlier than that, but you notice girls. You start to think about how how you're perceived, how you look, and at that point, I didn't like, I had a lot of curly hair, which I don't have now, and I was very skinny, and I was very uncomfortable with how skinny I was, so I wanted to be bigger. And, I saw a couple bodybuilding magazines, and I thought, yeah, that's what I want. Now, that's obviously not reasonable now in retrospect, but, at the time, I thought, yeah, that's what I want to look like. So I started working out at 14 years old, worked out steady, hard, didn't know what I was talking about. I mean, I read bodybuilding magazines that my buddy had. That's my shout out to Anthony Warner for letting me read bodybuilding magazines at his house. I'd read all my bodybuilding magazines and then try to emulate what they were doing. And it worked to an extent. I didn't know what I was doing food-wise. I didn't know about a lot of things. We're talking, this is the very early late 80s, early 90s. So there wasn't a lot of information out there at the time. But by the time I was like 19, I'm in university, and there are guys in the weight room that are a lot bigger and stronger than I am. And a guy I was playing football with told me that he was taking something called Dianabol. He gained a fair amount of weight and got a lot stronger. He was a big guy anyway, and I thought, that's interesting. And I was a little nervous about the idea of taking it, but it was. I wanted to get bigger. That's probably the best way to put it. So I decided, I'm going to do this. And, it was a bunch of little tiny white pills. They're about that big. And I thought, it's just a little white pill. How much can that hurt? Which tells you what you think when you're 19 years old. But that's what I did. So I took it. I did a cycle of Dianabol, which is about 30 days of Dianabol. I gained about 14, 15 pounds, which was, obviously pretty cool for me at the time. And what was super interesting was my bench press went way up. I think I was bench pressing 200 for 6 or 8 reps. Then I went to 250 for 6 or 8 reps. And that's a big jump. It's a 40, 50 pound jump on your bench. And I was like, I am the man. I love this. This is good. And the other side of it, I felt really good. I felt strong. I felt confident. I felt, because those things, as you get bigger, you feel more confident. As you get stronger, you feel more confident. I'm sure the Dianabol also made me feel confident and strong, and, that I could do anything. So over the course of the next 5-6 months, I probably ran 3 different cycles of Dianabol. Obviously, the first cycle gets you the most, and then they drop off. You get less and less impact as you go because, your body's getting used to it, and you're taking it probably more than you should. It's like that way with any drug. If you drink coffee every single day, after a while, you don't notice the caffeine hit anymore. You need 2 cups of coffee, 3 cups of coffee, etc. So at that point, I remember that was into the summer. I took, one of the cycles, I think in July, August, came back to school. I was stronger, I was bigger, but I wanted more. And I decided, heck, I got to do something here. And I ran into I met a guy at the gym. His name was Len. And really nice guy, really muscular, super big, and he had a drug connection. And at the gym, talking about steroids is not uncommon. It's just something people talk about. And back then, people were quiet about it, but they still talked about it. If you were interested, you knew who to talk to. So Len had me come down to his dorm room, and he gave me, the first time I ever tried it, it was testosterone cypionate, which is a testosterone derivative steroid. It's pretty common. I remember And I'd never done an injection in my life. So he showed me how to pull it out of the bottle, and he showed me where to put it injected. And I remember how nervous I was to do it because it was this sort of ambery, oily liquid, right? And I thought, shit, what are you doing? But at that point, I felt like I couldn't back out. I'd gone this far. I was there. I paid my money. It was time, sort of like go time. So I just said, screw it, I'm going to do this. I remember I just jammed it into my butt, I guess. It's the best way to put it. You put it in the muscle in your butt. I remember Leonard's the guy was like, man, dude, you weren't even scared to do that. I was like, well, shoot, I figured I'd just get it over with. Didn't like the needle at all. But the difference, obviously, on testosterone cypionate was noticeable. I got, again, bigger, stronger. I got bigger, stronger, and faster. That's the best way to put it. And I did that. I ran that cycle. That was about 8-10 weeks. I ran that cycle, and then I decided I want to get leaner too, but maintain the size. So he hooked me up with something called Winstrol, which is what Ben Johnson got caught with. That stuff kind of looks like milk. It actually separates when you have it in the bottle. It'll separate, and it'll have all this white powdery stuff at the bottom and clear liquid at the top, and you shake it up before you inject it. And I did that. I also tried oral Winstrol, which I didn't like. It gave me horrible headaches. But on and off then for the next, from 19 till I was probably about 25, I dabbled, and I think that's the right word to use. I dabbled in steroid use. I was always too nervous to go too crazy, which is probably a good thing because I hopefully didn't do enormous damage to my body doing it. Because like a bodybuilder nowadays might take, I don't know, 750, 1,000, 1,500 milligrams of testosterone a week. The most I ever did was like 150. Because I thought, oh, geez, I don't know about that. It seemed like a lot. And I was so nervous to do too much that I always would err on the side of less. Plus, I didn't have a lot of money, and I thought, I have this 10 milligram bottle, a milliliter bottle. I can do 10 injections of that. That'll last longer. That, in my mind, that worked better. Because I didn't have a lot of cash, right? I was in university, I was working a part-time job, so I didn't have a lot of money with that. So basically, on and off throughout my, from 19 to 25, 26, I dabbled in steroids, on and off. I didn't tell people. Really, nobody knew, and I don't think even if you met me, you probably wouldn't have known because I wasn't huge. I was a little bigger than I am now, but I mean, not enormous. The biggest I ever have been my whole life was 245 pounds. Right now I weigh around 225 to 230. So not significantly bigger than I am now. And I tried some that I liked and some that I didn't like. I tried Anadrol-50. I hated it. It made me paranoid. I was constantly paranoid on that thing. It was like I thought the world was coming to get me all the time, every day. I couldn't stay on it. I had to get off. I didn't like it at all. The testosterone-based ones I liked. I mean, I felt good. That's one of the things about steroids that people don't often talk about. You feel good. And I've said a lot of times, I think, to people, I don't feel like testosterone or steroids are addictive. It's addictive to the feeling of feeling strong. That's a great feeling. You like that. You don't want to miss it. You're addicted to the feeling, the well-being feeling, because quite often you feel really good when you take steroids. So since you feel good most of the time, what is there reason to stop? For me, the reason I stopped was I hit 26, and my goal had always been I want to play football. I want to get bigger, I want to get stronger, all those things. And I just hit this point. I'm like, what is the point of this? Like, what am I doing now? And I stopped. I actually stopped before my first bodybuilding show. I did 3 bodybuilding shows without taking anything because I just, it just wasn't, I didn't love it. I guess that's probably the best way to put it. I just didn't love it. I wasn't into it. I didn't enjoy it anymore. And went through that. And then over the course of, the next 4 or 5 years, I guess, up until I was about 34, 35, I got sick. Found out that my testosterone level had crashed, my natural levels, and then I had some issues, obviously, from that, and I've been on testosterone replacement therapy ever since. I don't know if that has anything to do with the testosterone and the steroid use when I was younger. It could not. Anyway, who knows? I'm not sure. I wouldn't rule it out for sure. I would say it may be the reason. In general, what I can say from my own experience with steroids is steroids get a pretty bad rap in a lot of ways. But I will say this. I think that there's a lot of things that are legal that are very, very dangerous for you. Everything from, a bottle of acetaminophen can kill you if you take too much of it, to, if you drink too much alcohol. We all know how people can become jackasses when they drink a lot of alcohol. That can be very dangerous for you too. I don't think steroids is any different than those things. It's not socially acceptable, but what I can tell you is it is prevalent in most bodybuilding, powerlifting gyms, heavily prevalent still. It's just a thing. People take testosterone, they take steroids in general, they take SARMs, they take whatever, because that is something they do. And I don't think it's my experience is abnormal in so much as I think that my experience on the back end of it of stopping was probably not as normal. I know a lot of guys that are in their 30s and 40s and 50s that still dabble in steroids. They still use it with semi-regularity because they want to. So I think where I veered off a little bit from some people is that I don't think I have an addictive personality insofar as exercise, or if I'm in something and I want to do it. But I had kids, and having kids changed my opinion on what I wanted to do with my life, probably, or it did actually. It's not probably. And then I owned a business, and that changed where I wanted to be. So those things will change you as a person, I think, a lot. And since they do change you a lot, you veer off. So that is overall basically my experience with steroids in a nutshell. I wouldn't say it was a good experience, and I wouldn't say it's a bad experience. It's just sort of an experience. I'm glad that I didn't drop into a culture where, I'm going to use it for the rest of my life. I'm happy I'm not that guy that, ended up with liver problems and kidney problems and other things because of my use. So I was fortunate in that manner. But it was an interesting experience, and I wouldn't suggest it. The reason I'm not making this video because I want people to try steroids. I think that's not a good plan at all. It's actually a terrible plan. It's the same as I would say to somebody if they said, should I start drinking heavily? No, you shouldn't drink heavily. That's a stupid idea. I wouldn't tell you to drink heavily, to use marijuana heavily, none of that stuff. I don't think anything in moderation is not going to kill you, but it probably is not all that good for you either. And what I try to do now is be healthy and go in a healthy manner rather than go in a manner that I did in the past, which was steroid use. So that's my story about steroids. If you have any questions on it, comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. I like to be an open book on this stuff because I want people to understand where I came from, what I did, and how it worked out for me. And if you have questions, comments, concerns, I'd certainly be happy to take them. Have yourself an amazing day. Don't fight the awesome.